Last week, I told you my number. I sat right here and I said the thing out loud that I've kept quiet for years because I wanted you to see that I'm not standing on the other side of some mountain that you can't climb. I am right here on the trail with you. Today, I'm coming after your number, not your revenue, your other number, the one in your head, the one that says not yet. So let me say this back to you. And I want you to listen for whether this sounds familiar because I'm going to do my best to say it in exactly the same way you say it to yourself. I just want to be ready before I raise my rates. I want to be sure I can actually deliver at that price. Sound familiar? I'll pitch myself for the keynote once I've got a few more wins I can point to. I'm not going to launch this offer until it's really, really solid. I owe people that. I'll start going on podcasts when I have my messaging totally dialed in. How about this one? That's not fear. That's me being responsible. That's me having integrity. I'm not one of those people who fakes it. Did you feel that? That little catch on your chest? I did too. Because I've said every single one of those sentences out loud with complete and utter and total conviction. And I believed that I was being the most responsible woman in the room. And I want you to sit in that for one more second. Because everything that I just said sounds like wisdom, right? It makes sense. It sounds like maturity. It sounds like exactly the kind of woman you were raised to be. And maybe that's our whole problem, right? So here's what I see now that I couldn't see then. That is not my responsibility. That's the good girl tax, wearing a responsible outfit. Getting ready is what the tax looks like when it's grown up and gotten sophisticated. One of my clients, you know who you are, and I've mentioned this a few times, coined this term that I thought was amazing, procrastinating, right? When you were younger, it looked like raising your hand only when you were sure, right? Now it looks like a beautifully amazing, reasonable business decision to just wait a little bit longer until you're truly ready. Same tax, prettier dress. And before you argue with me, and I know you're arguing with right now because I can feel it. I can feel you across the interwebs. I'm not going to tell you it's all in your head. I'm not going to tell you to just have more confidence because that's lazy advice. And frankly, it's a little bit insulting. You didn't come up with this caution out of nowhere, right? I mean, this is systemic. So let me show you exactly where you learned it because maybe I believe once you see it, it will be harder to unsee. So there's research on this, real research, not a quote that somebody's grandmother passed down, actual like peer-reviewed work that came recently out from economics at MIT, Yale, the University of Minnesota. They looked at almost 30,000 employees on the management track at a big company, 30,000. Real numbers, real promotion records, real ratings, real data. And here's what they found. The women got higher performance scores than the men. Higher. They were doing the job better. That's in the data. That's absolutely in the data. But the women got lower scores on one specific thing, potential. Right? Like, about 8% lower, right? Potential, that like squishy, made up gut feeling number that's supposed to answer the question, can this person handle the next level? The woman crushed the part you could measure, and they lost on the part somebody just decides about you. And that gap explained up to half of the entire difference in who got promoted. The women in that study ended up around 14% less likely to get promoted than the men. Not because they were worse, they were better. We already know that they were better, right? They lost on a number. Somebody made up about them. Somebody made up about their future. And here's the part that makes my hair stand on edge, and it should make your hair stand on edge, right? The researchers followed them. And the women who did get promoted, they went on to outperform the men who've been rated higher on potential every single time. The potential scores weren't even right. The women were better, like they were better bets the entire time. And the system bet against them anyway. So I want to say this as plainly as I can. You are not crazy. You did not invent this caution. You learned it. I learned it. We all learned it. We learned it because we've lived this. We've lived our entire careers inside a system that scores men on what they might do and scores women on what they've already proven. You read it correctly. Like you figured out somewhere deep down that for you, the bar was show me. And for him, the bar was, I bet he got it. I bet he's got it. So of course you over prepare. Of course you wait for 100%. Of course, of course we're doing that. You're not paranoid. You were paying attention. I really wanted you to hear this. I needed you to hear this before I say the next part, because the next part is the hard part. You learned that rule so well that you kept enforcing it after they stopped. What does that mean? Like, what am I like? You're like, what do you mean, Karen? When you work for someone else, there was a panel, there was a hiring committee, there was a guy with a clipboard deciding whether or not you were ready, and he was holding you to a higher standard, and that was real and that was unfair. But you don't work there anymore, right? Look around at your business. Where's the committee, right? Where's the panel that decides you're not ready to charge more? Where's the gatekeeper who won't let you pitch yourself for that stage? Where's the guy with the clipboard saying, not yet? There isn't one. It's you. It's me. We're the panel now, right? You're the only one left in the building still demanding you hit 100% before you're allowed in the room. You took that rigged scoreboard, you internalized it so unbelievably completely, and now you run it on yourself for free when there's literally no one else left who is doing this. You spent years, mad, furious maybe, at a system that scored you on proof instead of potential. And now you became that system. You are the strictest evaluator you have ever worked for. And no one's ever been charged for that. No one got a bill for the decade you spent underrated. And nobody's getting a bill now except you. You're paying it, that good girl tax, quietly, year after year, in a currency we don't talk about. So let's talk about it. Let's actually add this up, because the good girl tax always comes with a bill, and you've been paying this one on autopilot. The keynote that you've been getting ready for, somebody else gave it, right? Somebody less prepared than you. I know, I've been in that room. I'm sure you have too, sitting in a room where somebody else was giving the keynote where you're like, oh my gosh, I could have done this better, right? And they were getting paid a whole lot of money for this. Somebody who'd been doing it for maybe half as long as you walked onto a stage that you quietly decided you weren't seasoned enough to pitch for yet. And they were fine. Maybe they were even great. The room loved them, but that was your stage and you are still getting ready for it, right? So let's talk about the rate. Let's do this rate. Take the number you could have charged 3 years ago, the one you keep saying you'll grow into, and the number you actually charged, and multiply that difference by every client since. That's not a rounding error. That's a car, right? That's a car. That is a Birkin bag. That's a year of college for one of your kids. That's a down payment on a house. You didn't lose that money to a competitor. You handed it back voluntarily in exchange for feeling responsible. I know there's an offer that's still in drafts, right? Or the podcast pitches that you never sent, or the post you wrote and deleted because it wasn't quite there yet. The masterclass you've been refining for 18 months. I know that because I have a hard drive full of that stuff, right? Here's the line item that gets me though. It's not even the money. It's the time, because the one thing this tax takes that you can never claw back is the years. You've been ready. You've been genuinely, demonstrably, data on your side ready for a long, long time. And what did you do? You spent that readiness getting more ready. And the only thing you've actually been building all that time is the weight. So here's what I actually believe, and maybe it's going to sound backwards, so stick with me. Those men in the study weren't more ready than the women. We just covered that. The women were better. The men didn't earn higher potential scores. They got handed the potential. Someone looked at them and decided to bet on their future. So let me ask you the obvious question. If potential is something somebody just decides about a person, why are you waiting for someone to decide it about you? Because that's the move you're still making. If you're sitting here, if you're resonating with any of this, you're standing there with better performance scores than half of the people already on the stage, waiting for an invisible committee to tap you on the shoulder and say, okay, now you're ready. And that committee, it's gone. That chair is empty. It's not happening. You can just sit down. I talk to so many women about what their next chapter looks like and what kinds of things they want to do to get there. Almost never do they say, and I suck. They know they're good. They know they're great at this, right? Potential was never a finish line that you could cross. It's a decision that you make. And in your own business, you're the only one with a vote, just you, right? So you can grant yourself the same benefit of the doubt that the world's been handing men for free your entire career, and do it today. I talked a few weeks ago about visibility, about the difference between vanity visibility and the real thing. This right here is where they connect. Getting ready is how vanity visibility sneaks back in the side door, because polishing feels like progress, right? Refining the offer, perfecting the deck, tweaking the bio for the millionth time. It looks like work. It feels productive, and it keeps you safely out of the actual room. Procrastinating, procrastinating, polishing, right? Whatever we're going to call this. Real visibility was never about being the most polished person on the platform. It's about being in the room before you feel finished. The calls on your calendar don't come from being ready. They come from being seen. And you can't be seen from inside all the prep work. So I'm going to poke you here. Right? I'm going to poke you, and I'm going to ask you for exactly one thing, not 10 things, just one thing. The provocation first here. You've been ready for a decade. You have the receipts, better performance every time. The data is literally on your side. The thing you've been calling getting ready was never preparation. It was permission you were waiting for from people who were never going to give it to you, for a standard that doesn't even apply to you anymore. You're not underqualified. You're over-rehearsed. All right, one thing. I promise you one thing. I want to get off track here. I don't want you to overhaul your business this week. I don't want a new plan. Plans are just getting ready in a spreadsheet, right? I want one actual move, a move. Name the room, the specific one, the keynote, the rate, the offer, the podcast, the thing that you've been getting ready for. Say it out loud, name it specifically, and then take the smallest real action step towards it in the next few days. Send the pitch. Say that new rate out loud to one actual human being, even if it's just a friend, so that it leaves your body and enters the world. It's in the ethers here, right? Open the drafts folder on your Dropbox or on your Google Drive and find one offer and hit publish on that thing that's been sitting there. Press record if that's what you're waiting to do. One step. I know that one step doesn't change everything, right? But one step is how you prove to yourself that the committee is gone, the door is not locked, it was never locked. And look, if you don't want to take that step alone, right? If you want some company while you do the deeply uncomfortable thing of acting before you feel done, that's exactly what we do over in the Visibility Salon. We give you a week for free. You can check it out for free at visibilitysalon.com. It's full of women practicing being unready out loud together, no pressure. The door's open if you want it, but the step is yours either way. So this is your homework, and it's the easiest hard thing I'm ever going to assign you, right? Name the room, take the step, stop getting ready for a life you are already qualified for. Next week, I want to go somewhere I think you've been avoiding even harder than this one, because once you are ready, you've got to admit what you actually want. Ooh, the fun stuff, right? Out loud, right? The actual recognition, the big unapologetic version of this. And women have been hesitating way too long, and wanting is the thing that's the most dangerous of all, right? So we're going to do it. We're going to stop wanting and we're going to take action. So next week we get our permission. Until then, you've been ready for a decade. Go act like it, please. I'll see you back here next week.